My lovely Meryl Kennedy, I'm so happy you accept to be in these interviews. As I told you before, Meryl, what we're trying to do in this hard time is show fantastic stories, the story of people that we really admire, but that no one understand exactly how was the ride, how hard was the beginning, and through these stories inspire people. So what we're looking for, Meryl, is to know better about your life, even from the beginning when you're a children and a kid, and then the university, the people that you know that maybe change your life. For the people that don't know Meryl, we met like two nerds in Harvard maybe 5 years ago. A nice place to meet. And from this moment, we have been immediately friends. And I had the opportunity last year to help Meryl in something fantastic that is the building of an amazing rice company called Four Sisters. But she's going to talk about that. It's an amazing woman. It's not amazing just the work that he's doing for the family and the company he owns, but also for the community. I know that you are doing a lot of social things, so I'm super proud to be your friend, Meryl. I love you, and super happy
I love you too, Ricardo.
to have you in this call. So, and now please tell us your story.
You know, Ricardo, I think, even the way we met kind of sums up a little bit of my story. When I was a child, my parents traveled a lot, and so I was really fortunate to travel with them. But that meant that I didn't really get to start my education until I was almost in second grade. So I've always had this kind of hunger to honestly not be behind again, because if you could imagine starting in second grade when you have very little background, you have no math skills. I mean, I was pretty much dumbed the idiot in class or from the very beginning. And so that was really challenging. I feel like it wasn't until I was honestly in high school that I really felt like I caught up to my peers. And so since then, I feel like I've constantly been striving, to not be in that position again, and to always, kind of try to educate myself to the highest standards. So, but, my background really as a child was great. My father is the first generation entrepreneur, self-starter type person. He taught me the value of hard work from a very young age. There was no, half anything. Everything you're going to do at to the utmost of your ability. Constant kind of, this struggle between, well, that was good, but never good enough situation. I can't ever remember my parents, either one of them, telling me that, I had just done something extraordinary. I mean, everything was, yeah, that's great. What else? So not that was a bad thing. They also gave me a ton of independence. I have to say, for my mother. My mother was probably harder on me than my father even. She was a homemaker and still is, but because I was her only child in many ways, and the youngest in the family, it was just very much tough love. You're going to take care of yourself. You're going to figure out what you're going to do every day, how you're going to get to school every day, how you're going to pack your lunch. If you want to go to college, then you apply to go to college. If you don't want to go to college, then it's not my fault. If you get an A, it's your own doing. But so she was very supportive. She was not, I don't want it to seem like she wasn't there by any means, because she was. And she's a very loving mother, but there was no excuses, right? There was no excuses in my household. Like if it didn't happen, it was my own fault.
Well, you know what, Meryl? You know what? Yeah. It's interesting that all the stories that I hear, the father were a very important part of the stories, and they were always like this, always giving, a value to hard work, pushing the kids. As well as me, we are fathers, parents. It's very important to always, educate your kids in the same way. I love that yesterday you bring your kid with your father to the land, and
yeah,
this is amazing. It's super. In fact, I'm gonna put right here the picture of your kid, because we can insert pictures. So the idea teaching them the value of money, the value of hard work, the value of waking up very early in the morning and fight for their things is a fantastic, basic skill, basic, for everything successful people.
Yeah, no, look, and I think that kids do watch you and watch the things you're doing. If you're getting up early, if you're working hard, if you've got that drive, they definitely see that. But I also think it's important to let kids, go with you to the office, like I let my kid. I mean, occasionally, and not every day necessarily, but see what you're doing in the field. Let them understand from a very early age.
It was 1 second. It was
Actually
cut.
took me too long that I say it, but
I
my
lost you.
mother and
I lost you. 1 second. So could you
okay.
repeat that? So it's important too.
Yeah, so I think it's just extremely important, not only for your kids to see you, in an everyday kind of cycle of getting up early, trying really hard, putting your best foot forward every day, but also I think it's important to involve your kids in things you're doing. So, from a very early age, my father would take me with him to board meetings, places that you wouldn't normally see children. My mother and I would go, to Houston or somewhere like that with him. Even if I wasn't in the meeting, I knew that was a very important moment for him, seeing him dress up, all those kind of things, being involved with friends of his from a very early age, having to introduce myself to important people. That started very early for me, and it continued actually even when I started working for him. I mean, there was nothing that that was not something that he wanted me to be part of, and I think that's important.
I love what you said, that remember me, that my father always did the same with me. The only difference is that my father has a fashion company, so she bring me for the fashion shows with the models. So I was super happy. I don't know, it was an inspiration.
You're in love.
I know. I was not hard work at all. It was really, really inspiring, of course, but I don't know. It's true.
Yeah, but I mean, that instilled in you probably a lot of, your design elements and why you care about the way things look and the beauty of life and all that, I think is so important, right? So,
100%.
there's a lot that you learn from, I feel like, in your life. It's probably my grandfather, frankly, that instilled in me a really huge love of education. My grandfather was a professor at the local college. And so I'll never forget, I mean, when email came out, he got a little email address, and he would actually grammatically correct my emails to him in a very loving way. But, if I'd write him an email, he would write back and like spell check it for me.
So nice.
This is so, and just little things on how the way you introduce yourself to people. Look, these are small things, but we live in a very much a world that cares about these things. People are going to size you up the moment they meet you, right? So how you dress, no matter if you want to admit it or not, matters. How you look, but not just how you look, but how you present yourself to the world, right? So it's about confidence. And I think that building confidence in children is probably the best value you can give them, whether that's through involving them in your work, whether that's showing them that you're a confident person, the way you treat yourself, the way you talk about yourself even, right? So I think that for women in particular, I think that's something that women should watch on a daily basis.
Meryl, when you were in the school, do you know exactly what you want to study, or you were more?
Ricardo, my father at like 14 and 15 started telling me that I should just drop out of school. He's completely self-made, didn't go to college, has no value of education, right? So really that part was instilled in me by my grandfather. He could care less. He thought he values everything on hard work, and he is the perfect example truly of the American dream. But I really didn't see myself going into the family business like he wanted me to. I mean, he could have, said, hey, drop out of school and don't make me spend, a bunch of money on college education. Just come to work for me and it'll be great. But my whole life, had really been spent a lot around agriculture because he loves the farming aspect, right? So I'd grown up kind of in this world of agriculture and farming, but I really hadn't seen the other side of agriculture, the part that people don't talk about, the food supply chains and the sales side, marketing, everything else that goes into a large agricultural company. All I was seeing was the farming side. And at the time, there really wasn't any women that were examples to me in farming. And so I really didn't think that I wanted to do it. In fact, I said, absolutely not. And was, my major actually in college was international affairs. I was going to do more like diplomacy between Latin America and Europe and these things like that. So more government relations. But still was kind of interested in the business side. So he did not approve of this lifestyle or career choice at all. But I wasn't too worried about it. The interesting thing is now when I look back, so much of what I do is also based in, agriculture is very much related and goes hand in hand with governmental relationships, free trade agreements. All these things are interwoven that people don't tell you. They think, oh, hey, study business or whatever. You can't just study business. You have to study government. You have to know how government works to be in business, and vice versa. You have to know how business works or should to be in government, right? To be a really good civil servant. So there's so many interwoven connections that I just, 18 years old wasn't even in my mind.
But you know what? I love so far from your story, Meryl, that even though you have a possibility to go in the easy way, and you know what? Yes, let's join the company of my father. You choose, to work hard, be in university, keep learning, and thank God you made the decision because the company you have right now need all this knowledge is a fact. But again, what I like is that you do not take the easy way. You took the hard way, but right now it's pain. And this is something that everybody needs to understand. There is no free lunch in life.
I know. I've tried to find the easy way always, and I tend to never find it. So I'm pretty sure that it doesn't exist. But that's just how life is, and when you look back, you say, well, that's not, I made it, right? So it must
100%.
it must not have killed me. So I must have done okay.
But
yeah, that's life.
And during the university, Meryl, I know that you understood, you were studying more in the government, diplomacy, all these things, also mixed with
That's
business.
Right.
But at this time, do you join any organization, maybe in Louisiana? So what about organization, something else you were doing during the university?
Yeah, no, I actually studied abroad in Spain, and I had actually gotten accepted to Oxford in England to get my master's in Latin American studies. Like I was
Fantastic.
fully in on Latin American relations, U.S. diplomacy, those kind of things. And so really it wasn't until, I told my father that I was going to Oxford, and he about stroked and told me that he was never going to pay for that. He had never even heard of that school. It wasn't like, oh my God, my daughter is going to go to Oxford. Like, oh, it was like, I don't know where that is. And no, you're not going there.
It's not.
So yeah. So no, I don't know if that's normal at all, when I think about it, but in some ways, that's part of the what we were talking about earlier, right? There was never like a moment in my life that I've ever thought that like I made it. It's always like, well, that's not really that good enough, or it's not that it's not good enough. It's like, that's great, good accomplishment, but like, so what? What else, right? I do think that it's important from a reality check point to tell yourself some of those things. Like, yeah, that sounds amazing, and that could have been an amazing opportunity for me. And some people would still say that maybe I was crazy not to just go. But really, when I look back, the decision not to go was the right decision, because I spent those 2 years underneath him, just being introduced to people from all over the world, having experiences that I would never had in a university setting, And then I've been able to, attend programs like with you to Harvard and catch up on things that I needed. But I didn't waste, 2 kind of vital years of that, really young adulthood, sitting there behind a book, learning about something that wasn't going to necessarily,
Yeah.
create value for me for the rest of my life. So, you have to kind of check yourself sometimes in life, and because there's major roads that you can go down that change your life forever, right? So, and there's not really a wrong or right necessarily.
Oh, 100%.
So you just have to know that the
I also,
decisions you make are the decisions
I,
you make.
I also love the fact that you are in 3 million federation, 200 forum. So tell me a little bit more about all this organization, all these, place where you are working in the government side, in the business side. So tell me a little bit about this forum and activities and organizations.
Yeah, actually, it was funny. My father this morning, I was on another call for task force that I'm on, and he said, damn it, like they're wasting all your time again. So I get pulled into all these organizations, but I do love it. I love to be part of different things. I think it keeps my mind very engaged. From my love of kind of government and diplomacy, like we talked about, gets me sucked in a lot of times into more trade negotiation type deals. This particular one was reopening Louisiana and economic development out of Louisiana. So I do, I tend to fill that hole, I guess, of things that I really enjoy through different organizations that I'm part of, sitting on boards, those kind of things. And I love to meet new people too. Like I'm always so just completely, I don't know, overwhelmed with some of the people that I meet on these groups and the value that they bring to me and the connections that I make. Sometimes it's about that, right? Sometimes it's about the camaraderie a little bit, but more so just about being around people that energize me. I love to be around people that give me energy and that are just always on go, because then it kind of, my life makes sense, right? I think that it's important, the people that you surround yourself with, right? So I love to surround myself with smarter people than me, people that I really feel like are doing incredible things, people that want to make a difference in the world. Those people bring me life. So
I love because we share so many of these same values, and not just we. All the people that I've been interviewing, they always have this passion to keep learning, to keep knowing from person. And as you said, they always want to be in the table and not the smarter. So they want to be always learning from someone else. Meryl, I have some questions that I do with all the people to understand them, common things. How old are you right now? I know you're a lady, but I need to ask you the age.
I'm 31.
31. Okay. Do you remember the first time you made money? The $1 or whatever?
Of course.
When was
Do
it?
you?
How old you were?
You talking about as a child? You're not talking about as
No,
like
as a
an
child,
adult.
as a child. The first little thing. So.
Yeah, I do. I was probably 5.
Oh my God! How you were selling?
I wasn't necessarily selling anything. I would collect my father's change, which he knew about. I wasn't like stealing it, but he would put it on the table, right? A lot of money. I mean, I actually collected like $200 or $300, and so we were going to Disney World that year. And my mother, she tells me, she's like, "Okay, Meryl, you're going to need to spend your money at Disney World." And I was like, "My money?" And she's like, "Yeah, like you have $300." And I said, "On what?" And she said, "Well, food and admission to the park and everything." I mean, my mom's serious. Like, okay. So she tells the story that we got to the cafeteria, and everybody was eating, and she said, "Meryl, you're," and I asked her if I was gonna have to spend my money, and she said, "Yeah," and I told the waiter that I'll take crackers, please, and water. So, I wasn't gonna pay, right? So she actually said she got worried by day 2. I'd only eaten crackers and water, And so she was like, I mean, I can't starve my child. She's 5 years old.
But it's
So
so
anyways, I
so good.
think
This but it's so
she
good. This
gave in at this point.
But it's so good, this example, because in 3 seconds, you learn the value of money. And you know what happened last year with my daughter? My daughter is 19,
Mm-hmm.
is in BU, and I always buy, the computers. But
Yeah.
this time, for some reason, she broke the computer. And I said, okay, you know what? This time, you're going to pay for the computer. And I saw her in the Mac store suffering so hard, trying to negotiate with a guy. Are you sure? But okay, there is any way. So, but it's true. It's important because all these years it's just, Papi, buy me the computer, and I bought the computer. No, no, no. When you need to pay, when you need to earn the money, oh my God, it's a different story.
Yeah,
So
my father actually started making me pay for everything, like for school and everything from high school up. So I had my own account, and I mean, I had to write the check to the school, and
this is perfect.
yeah, I mean, it was really valuable to me. I mean, I think that we wait too long to give kids responsibility. What's it going to hurt, you know? So,
Nothing.
but
The
yeah,
sooner they know that, the better. Okay,
yeah, they don't write the check, they don't go to school.
100%. First, what was your first entrepreneurial business, or do you have with friends something, any small business when you were a kid or something like that, or you were always focused in the study?
Um,
I'm losing you.
you know, I don't know that I had a business. Hey, can
Okay.
you hear me now?
Now yes. Now I
Ricardo?
lost. Now I don't see you. 1 second.
Ricardo?
Okay. Now yes.
Okay.
Back.
Can you see
Okay.
me?
Yes. Now I see you.
Okay.
So you didn't have any business side, during the school or something like that you were doing
Breaking
with.
up. I wonder why.
Yes. Now.
Ricardo, I wouldn't say that I had a business, but I was always extremely competitive. Like I was a Girl Scout, for instance, and had to sell the most Girl Scout cookies. So my mother literally gave me a phone book, and I called every single person in our entire town until I had sold, all the cookies that I needed to have the gift that I wanted or whatever. So, I was a kid. So no, I didn't necessarily have a business, but it was always something. I was always self.
I like it. I like it. Meryl,
Just cut it.
what is your biggest success in life so far?
Oh, I think my biggest success in life, honestly, is my kids. You know, I'm very grateful for them. So I feel like that's probably my biggest success in life. That's technically my legacy.
For sure.
But I mean, I've had many successes, many failures, frankly. I feel like I have a success and a failure pretty much every day. And literally my entire life. Small successes, right? Equal big ones, but and small failures and big failures pretty much daily. So at this point, I feel like it's been just an incredible journey, honestly. Um, Starting businesses, um, buying businesses, turning businesses around that were failures. That probably, I've actually turned a business at this point. That was probably the most challenging success that I feel like I can put in my bucket. Somebody told me the other day that I should just do turnarounds. I said, no, I prefer, startups, building from the bottom, because you can rebuild your culture the way you want it. When you take somebody else's culture, it's so draining, right?
True.
So, I mean, it really is. But, I feel like at this point, it doesn't really necessarily matter. They all kind of, the successes and the failures, it's an everyday up and down battle, but it's like a mountain. You just keep on climbing.
I love something that you mentioned, Meryl. You, as well as many entrepreneurs and leaders, you mentioned, without even asking you, that you have been in many failures. So you make mistakes, and it's normal. And one of the most important things that I'm trying to do in these interviews is that people need to understand that making a mistake is something normal. and this is an amazing opportunity to learn from these mistakes. So and I love that in all the interviews, when I ask what is the failure that you had, they said, oh my God, do you want one or all of them? Because I have a lot. And
I don't even know them all at this point, you know?
But you know what is fantastic that you express in this way without no problem, because it's something normal. And you know what? When you are a person that you are not able to make mistake, you are not creating anything, you are not inventing anything, because you are super scared.
It's probably one of the worst things. I mean, honestly, I always say this to people, but confidence is a lot of it, right? So it's the ability to make a mistake, a huge mistake, like lose thousands of dollars and walk in a room and still be proud of yourself, right? Like still, and the next day, you know, to beat yourself up a little bit about it because you know you're not going to ever do it again, but not to, you know, not to focus on it, not to think about it, like it just happened, right? Just like
learn from that and move forward.
Yeah, move on.
Yes, and you know what?
And then not be scared to do something.
100%. Another thing, Meryl, you know that I became American not so far away. And something that I love from our country now, our country, America, is the fact that is the fact that the American people, the American culture is based on that. Is the people that have more value is the person that made it by themselves. And having a company and running a company, if you learn from that, doesn't define you. So what defines you is what you do every single day. It's not about your past. It's not that, okay, I have a failure, so you are going to be a loser for your life. No, you're going to be a loser if you never do something to move forward, to learn from problems. And I believe one of the most amazing countries in the world that have this very, very clear is the US. Because in Europe, in Latin America, still, it's a lot of where you're coming from. And if you made a mistake, it's like, oh my God, this guy made a mistake. Move forward from this guy. You know Salo Sredny. You remember Salo from Harvard?
Yeah, of course.
The other day, I was in a coffee with him. I was telling about freedom because he's one of the advisors. And he said, I was saying, oh my God, Salo, I tried this and it was a failure. I tried the other, oh my God. And he said, I'm so happy, Rick. And right now, if I put 1 million, I will put 5 million now because I saw how much are you suffering. So now I saw
right.
Really deep in the field, fighting. I love that. So the believe it or not, is more important when you find an executive that have a lot of battles and not in all have been winning, but learning from the mistakes, than a person that is just a winner and never understood how to recover, how to move forward from something wrong. But this is something that I want to be super pushing and clear in these interviews. Let me go back to the questions. Okay, what is the best Meryl advice that someone gave you in your life? Or some advice that you remember, like an important one?
Oh gosh. There's a quote that hangs in my father's office, and he uses it a lot too. His always advice is always be open for change, right? So he really believes that you should be able to change your mind to the very last moment. So if you get into a deal and you don't like it, then you should pull out, right? So he always says, always leave yourself room, right? Always be able to change your mind. Never get so fixated that you can't say that you're wrong and you can't move to a different direction.
So
but yeah, it is true. So that's a wonderful piece of advice. But there's a quote too, as always, that reads something like, every morning in Africa, Giselle wakes up and must outrun, a lion. And every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up and must, outrun a gazelle to eat, right, to survive. So it doesn't really matter. The point is, it doesn't really matter if you're the lion and you're the king of the jungle, right, needs to eat, or you're the little guy that needs to outrun him. You have to continue to run. I think that's the point. That to me, that's, yeah. I mean, to me, that's all
it's cutting.
about mistakes, and fall and whatever. But you better, being the giant. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Why are we cutting out so bad, Ricardo?
I have no idea. I'm not.
I don't either. It's weird. I'm gonna. I'm going to disconnect from this and try to go on my.
Okay, now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
I will try again. Anyways, but if you're the lion, right, and you wake up and you fall, right, you're not going to eat if you don't get up. So you're going to starve to death. So I don't care if you're, the startup or you're the big giant monopoly or whatever. You have to be constantly in motion. The world's not going to stop. The world continues to move. And I think that sums up basically my life, honestly.
I love it.
I live by that every day.
Meryl, do you have an amount of money that you are waiting, and when you have this amount of money, you stop, or you will never stop? You're gonna keep working all your life.
I don't care about money, Ricardo. No, I'm just kidding. No, I obviously I like money. We all like money, right? But no, there's never a dollar mind. I don't really work for money anymore. I'll be honest with you. I work because I love what I'm working on, and money is something that I have to continue to work on what I'm doing. And that's the reality.
It's a common thought. Non-leader are working for money. They work for build something, and the money is a consequence of a good work. So I 100% with you. Do you have someone that is an inspiration for you, a legend, something like that in your life?
I actually have, I don't know that necessarily I have. I mean, my father's a legend, frankly. He was named a Louisiana legend. So yes, he is an inspiration for me. And I feel very proud to have him. But I use a lot of, and maybe because I'm a female in a very unique industry, right? There's very few of us. There's a lot of female role models that, I follow and things like that I just think are incredible people. And, I get inspiration from them. Again, I told you earlier, I surround myself with all kinds of people that I find inspirational, right? And the weirder they are, the better to me, like that more feeds my soul a little bit, right? So,
Love it.
I just, to me, everybody's an inspiration in some ways, even the people that you don't necessarily find as heroes, or I feel like are inspirational. So
talking about exercise, do you do how many days exercise? How many days?
I really try to exercise at least 5 times a week. I feel like even if it's just walking outside, I wouldn't say that I have like a regimen of what I do necessarily. I love yoga, meditation. I do a lot of that, but I try to do something outdoors every day, right? Sometimes twice a day. Even with COVID-19, it's been nice because it's allowed me to like walk in the afternoons and actually work out in the mornings and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think mentally to be focused, you have to take care of your body. I mean, it's like number one. You don't have to be some crazy, I mean, I'm probably never going to look like Giselle, frankly, but I can take care of my body and make sure that mentally that, everything is in check. So I think it's important.
What about the food? Are you eating healthy?
Yeah, to me, food's probably more important than exercise. People think that you're just going to exercise and be skinny, and that's not necessarily true. It's all about what you put in your body, right? So how you feel mentally, are you clear, right? I mean, even to the extent of, don't get me wrong, I like to drink, but I try not to drink during the week because then I'm not as clear during the day, right? I'm a pretty small person, so just, a couple glasses can make me foggy the next day. So, I try to be aware.
There is a phrase that says that the good body is made not in the gym, is in the kitchen.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of truth to that, right? So, and what you feed yourself absolutely affects how you feel and your confidence and what you look like and your skin and everything.
100%. Meryl, at what time do you go to sleep?
I go to sleep early, honestly. I'm an old lady sometimes when it comes to bedtime, but my kids go to bed early, about 8, and so I normally get into bed about 8:30 or 9, and I'm asleep, by 10. Sometimes I read or work or
I don't remember.
Like that.
There was a friend. I don't remember who was the person that he was teaching us, and they said, if I can convince my kids to at least in the university eat well and sleep 8 hours, I'm gonna for sure increase the possibility of getting high rates in 40%. So
Wow.
just the eat healthy and the sleep the time that they need to, because in the college it's so crazy that they don't eat well. So the body at the end is a machine. It's a machine. So if you don't treat well, at the end of the day, you don't get the results. And at what time do you wake up, Meryl?
I wake up fairly early, Ricardo. I mean, I would say somewhere between 5 and 6 every day.
Uh,
And then, yeah, I
I don't know if
normally,
you guys are looking my interviews before and now, because every person have the same routine. I think that the wake up early and work hard is something that always works.
well, if I don't wake up early, I don't have any really time to collect my own thoughts before my day starts either, right? So I love to, some mornings I work out, some mornings I don't. But on the mornings I don't, I'm in the office early because I need to wrap my head around something before I have to start my day, right? So I always want to be ahead of the people that are working for me, or where I am. I feel very, if I'm behind, then there's a problem, right? So I need to be ahead and be able to be focused ahead of them so that we can prepare properly. And that means a lot of times that I've got to be not distracted. And the mornings are perfect. I mean, people don't realize that mornings are the perfect. Your brain actually, it's amazing. There's
Wow.
books about it, how your brain works better at certain times of the day, and like during the hours of like the traditional Spanish siesta, right? That they're sleeping. Well, your brain is only functioning like 10% anyways.
Wow.
So, you never want to go to an important meeting at certain times, right? So like if you can get the earliest appointment, take it.
I agree.
It's really important. People completely neglect
I
this.
think that people think different. In fact, when I have something that in the agency to work in a campaign, something like that, and I need the feedback from the leader or from the head of the company, I prefer that he give me the first time in the morning, because
Absolutely.
more fresh.
100%.
Yeah. But it's something that sometimes in the creative world, no, at night I think better. No, at night you are super tired. So in the morning, fresh with a coffee in the hand, relax, is a totally
Yeah, and if you had something stressful happen during the day, you're not bringing that into the meeting, right? So it's completely clear. You slept. You're
you're
100%.
tired. You're a simple tired. Period. It's
Yeah,
true.
they say that you have another peak. It's really interesting, the time clock, but you have another peak around 5 o'clock where you're really happy again, but then it's really short lived. So maybe that's why they think, right? They think that at nighttime. But I just feel like the mornings are yours, and those are very precious hours in the day. You should take them.
Agree. Do you have a book that you recommend, Meryl? Some book that you really, if you have to recommend just one, what would you recommend?
Ah, oh my gosh, I love to read. So this is so hard. You just told me
I
one.
know, it's just good. These are,
Outliers, probably. I really like the book Outliers. Um,
do you know the
but
story about,
I mean,
you know the story about this book that is so good, to the people that don't know the book still. It's about it's a study where they analyze some common things that help human beings. For example, if you are the younger in a school, you have a disadvantage. For example, in a sport, if you
that's
are
Outliers.
exactly.
Yeah,
So this is
yeah,
what you mentioned about the book. And
yeah.
I moved my daughter Andreina 1 year because she was the youngest in a group.
Right.
So she's gonna have a disadvantage. So in the US, I moved her I made her repeat 1 year to take advantage of what the book
That.
says. So this is something that I want to also repeat. Yesterday, I was with a friend, Carlos Añaños, the head of the biggest company, Coca-Cola company in Latin America. And he was mentioned something like, it's not just inspiration or whatever you read, it's what you bring and make immediately happen. So if you have an idea and you do not implement, at the end of the day, you're losing your time. So the idea is
Absolutely.
through all these books, through all these people that inspire us, try to understand as soon as possible what can you bring immediately and implement. And you know what? You don't need to be perfect in implementation. Let's do baby steps, but at least start. And again,
Yep.
don't be worried about, because you can adjust. But the important thing is the
Moving.
Exactly. Another friend, Bobby Coimbra. Bobby Coimbra is the head for Andino region of WPP. It's a huge multinational company.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned like, it's very important to put the balls in movement. So always keep something in
Yeah.
movement. So never stop like in these days. So if you lose these amazing opportunities where the world is in pause and you can take advantage, you are, oh
Yeah.
my God, losing such a,
Yeah. Look, the lion's either going to eat you, right? You're either going to become
literally,
you're going
literally.
to become supper, right? Or you're going to be the lion and not eat, starve to death. So, I mean, it's the same thing. You have to continue. You have to change. You have to be able to change, right? You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to move. You cannot be debilitated by fear or mistakes or whatever. And so you're right. I mean, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of books that talk about, like Sheryl Sandberg wrote something called Lean In. There's a book, it's like F It or something like that. But look, it's the same. It's basically the same message, which is interesting that you say that a lot of the people you've been interviewing have the same message too. But I see it over and over again for people. I see people that get on the cusp and they've already made it. I call it transition, where it's so hard when you first begin because you've got, very little knowledge. You have less confidence in yourself. You've had less successes. So the failure seems so much bigger, right? They seem huge. It feels like every day, like I'm never going to, now at this point in my career, like I fail, but I know that I've built reputation. I've built integrity. I'm going to figure it out. Even if my business goes away tomorrow and I lose everything, that's fine. I can reinvent myself. I have confidence in myself to do that. 10 years ago, that was harder, right? It's not so easy. Even 5 years ago, that was harder to believe because I'd had less successes. So the failures seemed bigger. So I just think that in general, and again, I call it transition. I mean, it's that period in life where you don't realize you already made it through the hardest part. And so you keep on waiting, for it to be worse or something, and it's not going to be worse. You made it over the hump, and a lot of times people quit right then. It's like that last mile in the marathon, and you don't even realize you're in the last mile. If you realize you're in the last mile, then you would run harder, right? But you don't realize you're in the last mile because you're blind. Nobody told you what mile you're on. So you're like, what mile am I on? I can't see a time clock, whatever. And so people stop. So, I mean, it's like, anyways, it's
Consistency is
become,
also very important.
yeah, it's because it weeds to me out the people that are going to be very highly successful and people that are not. I mean, and that's harsh, but it's true. And I see it daily, honestly, with with my friends, with our employees, with family members, things like that. You just, and transition can happen at any point, right? But you have to get over it. So.
100%. And Meryl, the last question, what is the advice that you need to give to people right now during these days is where someone are super negative? What is your advice to finish the interview?
I could say a lot of things, I guess. I know that we're all struggling in this whole situation. Again, it's a bit of a mental thing, right? So we don't know when the transition is going to happen. We don't know if it's already happened. Like we think we're coming out of this, but then we might go back in it. Then we might not, So again, it's a mental thing where you don't know where you are that really bothers people and makes a lot of uncertainty with people and makes it very difficult for people to get through. I think some things that, there's not necessarily a definite timeline for, but I would encourage people to be living gratitude, right? To live thankful for the things they have. I woke up this morning. My children woke up this morning. I'm healthy. I'm happy. There's really, it's the sun is out, right? There's lots of things in life to be happy about. So when you fall into kind of like, a situation of the world's ending, well, call your friend, go walk over to your neighbor's house and leave them something if they can't see you. I don't know, do something that brings joy to you, because there's always something to have gratitude for and be thankful for. And I think if you live like that, then, you can see through the darkest moments in life there's always something to be positive about. So
Meryl, I love you. I love to be your friend. I love to
I love
work
you
with
too,
you.
Ricardo.
So thank you for this time and for sharing your story with us. So thank you again, Meryl.
Thank you too, Ricardo. Talk soon. Bye. Mwah. Besos.